To celebrate 25,000 subscribers, about a week ago, I put up a video where I allowed you guys to ask me anything. And today, we're gonna go through those questions and I'm gonna give you some answers. A huge thank you to every single patron who helps support the channel, as well as the YouTube members, and let's get into this. Very cool, and thank you for sharing your experience behind the scenes. Does TikTok get you paid in any way? I'm not on there yet, but I heard you mention you've been putting more time in there. Yes, I do also run a TikTok account where I'm almost up to 10,000 followers. I have millions of views on TikTok at this point, and I have made absolutely $0. Literal zero. So for the TikTok Creator Fund, it doesn't even exist in Canada yet, so I literally can't be paid by TikTok for views. Even if TikTok was paying me, views pay basically nothing. A quick Google search shows me that 1 million views might pay you out 20 to 50 bucks, so if you're even considering getting paid by TikTok, it literally doesn't matter. You have to do brand deals, promotions, sell your own stuff. On TikTok, you don't make money from views. Great question. I know you mentioned that you don't collect for modern consoles, but I'm curious how you feel about limited run games and strictly limited games for Switch, where some of these titles ungraded are already selling for hundreds of dollars. At this point, it shouldn't be a secret that I don't really care about modern collecting. I don't really care about limited run games. I don't really care about strictly limited games. With that said, I will try to give this answer as unbiased as I can. With these LRG, SRG games for the Switch, my biggest issue with them is that right now, Switch is really relevant. Collecting Switch is relevant, it's exciting, it is the main Nintendo console out right now, and so there's a lot of hype around all this stuff for it. YouTube content, people talking about it, Switch is insanely popular. I fear that a lot of these games being released by SRG, LRG, any of these companies though, even though they are printed in limited quantities, they're being sold as collector's items, which is already the first red flag. A lot of people are going to keep these sealed, keep these in mint condition. These aren't going to suffer from any kind of organic attrition. Everyone's going to keep these nice. And the other issue I have is how many of these are just random games that have no life outside of once the Switch is no longer popular. How many games are people actually going to care about in 5 to 10 years from now when Switch is not the modern console, Switch is not the biggest deal, and people are moving on to the next, newest, hypest, most exciting thing that's out by Nintendo. LRG also did print games on PS4, on PS Vita, and a lot of those, even if they're LRGs, can be had factory sealed mint condition for a little bit over retail, not even the old retail price. Obviously, Switch, Nintendo, there's more collectability there, but in 5 to 10 years, maybe there's going to be an LRG service where for $20 a month, you can play any LRG game you want, or heaven forbid they ever do any kind of reprints or back ordering. I don't think these companies are above that. So in general, I don't love speculating on these. I think if you can get it at a retail price and it's already selling for double, maybe even triple the price right now, I would cash that out. I would take a little bit of money, or at least hedge my bets. Maybe sell some, keep some, but do not buy every single LRG, SRG, any of these limited games and think that you're going to have a retirement fund. It's far more likely that the majority of these releases by these companies do very little into the future. At least that's my opinion on them, and it's why I don't chase after them. They are actually great products overall, so I do see the appeal. Next question. Great video. Have you ever thought of making market talk videos where we discuss the state of the market, what's hot and what's good to buy, etc.? So I do make market talk videos where I will talk about the state of the market. I only do them every 3 months or so, or if I think the market has something interesting to talk about. We've been on a steady decline now for almost 2 years straight, so I was releasing quarterly market talk videos, but the overall market talk, especially in the sealed and graded world, is that stuff is still stagnant or going down. The economy still sucks. There hasn't been any kind of meaningful shift any which way. As for making what's hot or what you should buy type of videos, I don't love doing that. I might do something like, oh, keep your eyes open for these GameCube games, or keep your eyes open for these N64 games. Stuff that I might think is undervalued because I was a full set collector for a lot of consoles, so I have a lot of nuanced opinion on this, but in general, making videos where it's like, oh, you should go pick this stuff up right now, I think it's kind of lame. I think there's way too much bias in doing something like that in general, and I would hate to be telling people to go make buying decisions that, well, quite frankly, they might just not work out. I'm very open with saying that right now, I think a lot of graded and sealed games are selling at substantial discounts. We're getting close to floor prices. I think there's very little money that can be lost if you enter into a lot of these prices right now. But other than that, I'm not going to give individual recommendations as to what you should be buying. Next question. What do I think about collecting for the PlayStation Vita? Vita falls into a pretty niche category. I know there are some dedicated Vita collectors out there, but if you're going to go after it hoping that the Vita is going to become way more popular in the future and the prices of these games is going to go way up in the future because Vita is this underappreciated, underloved console, I mean, maybe, but I would only collect Vita if I actually have an interest in collecting Vita. Don't expect anything financial out of it. There might be some games that pop here and there, but overall, there's just not a lot of people that care about Vita. If you want to collect it because you like collecting for it, it has a really unique library with some really cool games. Next question, do I have any original owner games in your collection? Maybe they have a story. When you say original owner, do you mean games that I'm the original owner of or ones that I purchased from an original owner? I actually have no idea if I purchased stuff from original owners, to be completely honest. A lot of the transactions I've done in the past 5 to 10 years have been very non-personal. It's a lot of eBay buying or random Facebook groups, stuff like that. For my own original owner games, I don't even really consider those as part of my collection. Most of our childhood stuff still stays at mom's house, and we actually game on that stuff quite a bit, me and my younger brothers, but I don't consider that stuff my collection. I drew like a hard line of everything that's just from the childhood and everything that I bought when I actually started collecting this stuff, so I don't consider any of my original stuff as part of my collection. I don't keep it with my collection. That's all separate. Next question. Do I think it's fair to grade 15-plus-year-old video games with a simple black and white set of rules that applies to modern new games, 1-year-old release or released 3 weeks ago? For example, is it fair to say a 2023 sealed video game, 9.8A+, then a same grade quality but released in 2002 should be the same grade, ignoring how old it is in time preservation? So I think what you're saying is, should we grade older games the exact same way we grade newer games? And my opinion on that is yes. A 9.8A++ should be a universal standard for how the game gets graded. And this is the same with VGA 90 or CGC 9.9. If a Switch game is going to get a 9.8A++, I do think a PS2 game should be in similar overall condition in order to get that grade. And what this does create, and I do think the grading companies are doing this for the most part, because if we look at original Xbox, the amount of A++ seals that are being given out in general is below 5%. So they are holding these older consoles to very high standards with their grading. Of course, we're going to see a lot more perfect grades with Switch and stuff because they are brand new games, but I don't think older stuff should be graded on any kind of curve. I just think it makes it a lot more complicated for everyone. Next question. What is my most valuable game or games? I have some high grade black box stuff in my collection. So Donkey Kong Jr. hang tab is an 85+, Tennis hang tab is an 85. I have Excite Bike hang tab hanging out that isn't graded yet. I have Mega Man No Stripe that's going to be in high grade. Those ones are really the tip top of the collection, and I don't know what they're worth. I'd have to put them to open auction, and whatever they sell for, they sell for. Love your channel. I subscribed out a month ago. Question. Have you ever seen Nintendo trading cards listed on Heritage? You're collecting mainly Zelda cards and seeing lots of graded Nintendo cards popping up on the market. I think it's just a matter of time before they reach auction houses. So for Nintendo trading cards, Jocelyn, there has been the Nintendo top scratch-off cards. There has been some of the 36-pack wax boxes of Donkey Kong cards and stuff. On PWCC, there's been some Japanese Mario Kart-ass cards coming up. So I guess a little bit they've been coming up, but as of right now, the Nintendo trading cards, almost all of them, are still pretty niche and pretty esoteric. It might be worth picking those up, as I don't think there's a lot of eyes on them right now. Could be something that becomes more valuable in the future. Where can I get big box games and consoles graded? If you have big box, consoles, games, anything that is not within the standard size dimensions of a video game, VGA will cover all of that for you. They do custom sizing. They will almost literally grade anything. Am I flexing in the thumbnail, or am I just that jacked? That is a great question. What are some good platforms for selling graded games outside of eBay? If you don't want to sell on eBay, you can of course go to Facebook, Instagram, socials. I have a Discord server that you can join, absolutely free. Link is in the description. And outside of doing it yourself, you can consign to any of the auction houses that do graded games, such as Heritage, Golden, Certified Link, PWCC, Hakes. If you ever need help deciding where you should sell something or what you should do with something, by all means, ask in the Discord. There are people there who can help you out. Next question. Your father-in-law collected everything Wayne Gretzky. He recently downsized and got a lot of his old stuff, including 3 sealed video games, a Nintendo 64 Wayne Gretzky 3D Hockey 1996. I took it to CGC, where in Toronto for the Sports Card Expo, they were very helpful and professional with me, as I'm very computer challenged. It came back a 9.6A+. So I think you have a N64 Wayne Gretzky 3D Hockey 9.6A+, but they labeled it Japan, Canada. Does this help or hurt the resale value? What do I think is a fair price? In general, if that is indeed a Canadian variant of the game that would hurt your resale value. I would have to see an actual picture of it to know exactly what we're dealing with there. As for the value, if it is the N64 version, which I think is what you're saying there, it actually should have decent value. There's barely been any of them at the big auction houses. I would think somewhere in the $500 to $1,000 range, maybe more, but again, I would have to see pictures to really know what we're dealing with. And then you say you also sent in Gretzky NHLPA on Super Nintendo. They claimed it was resealed. Do you think it's worth it sending to WATA? If CGC said it's a resale, it's probably a pretty obvious reseal, I would think. Super Nintendo games really don't have any variants when it comes to seals, so it's pretty easy to authenticate them overall. Join the Discord, upload a photo somewhere, and someone can help you out for sure. Nightbot Mike 23 asks, I am curious, who is your favorite Nintendo character of all time? I'd probably have to go with Link. I love the Zelda series so much. I do wish Link himself had more character or was a more dynamic character, but the Zelda series and franchise is just so incredible that I think I have to go with Link. Hopefully eventually we get a Zelda movie where Link himself as a character gets way more fleshed out. Link still being a silent protagonist in 2023 is kinda crazy to me. Who would win in a fight, Short Greg or Long Greg? Honestly, I've got to give it up to Short Greg. That guy is very efficient with what he does. I just don't see Long Greg keeping up. What's your thoughts on grading collecting Dreamcast games? Don't think I've ever heard your opinion on this. Dreamcast again gets into that more of a niche console overall. Like I just talked about PS Vita not too long ago. For me, Dreamcast falls into that same space. It's a console where there are going to be people who love it. There are some big games on the console. I think the library is only like 160 games off the top of my head. So there are some really good titles on there, but overall, a lot of people just do not have connection to the Dreamcast, and I don't see the Dreamcast becoming more popular as more time passes. So if you're gonna collect for the Dreamcast, do it because you have a passion for it, do it because you love it. I just don't know how much expected value you can really expect out of Dreamcast games in the future. Peter Meisel says, congrats Greg, what sequel to a beloved game of yours would you pay a stupid amount of money in a Kickstarter for the developers to make? Let's imagine this game would be 10 out of 10 if they made it, so no worries if they would diminish the legacy of the original game. If I could pick one game where I would want to be able to go back, experience the characters, the world with another story, I would want a Final Fantasy VIII Part 2. And I know it sounds stupid, there's not really any way to do a Part 2 to a type of game like that, but I would just accept if they brought back all of the characters from that game, the world, and just put a new plot on top of it. Call it Final Fantasy VIII Remix if you want. That is something I would actually support a Kickstarter on. And the last time you asked me about my favorite DBZ moment, what's my favorite moment scene from Yu-Gi-Oh? Before Yu-Gi-Oh, I probably have to go to the Battle City arc. Duelist Kingdom arc is good, but it's basically an entire meme until you get to Pegasus's castle. The Pegasus duel is obviously very iconic, both Kaiba's and Yugi's. But with Battle City, the rare hunters always stood out to me, probably because I also am like this weirdo who likes collecting rare stuff. So I'm gonna go to the Strings duel against Yugi, the entire duel there, where Yugi first gets Slifer the Sky Dragon with the Revival Jam, Jam Defender. They do those infinite loop combos there to deck out Strings. That whole duel stood out to me so much. It actually had like a meta involved with it, and Slifer is the best god card. So give me that duel in the Battle City arc. I loved it. Pixel Collector asks, hi Greg, I really appreciate your channel. Thanks to you, I made my first investment in heritage items and thoroughly enjoy your content. Let's go. I have a question for you. You're Italian and you've noticed significant differences between the US market and the European market. However, I still need guidance on where to invest in terms of consoles, franchises, genres, and so on. Could you please explain what factors should be considered when making investment choices, taking into account the variations between different markets? First of all, do decide if you want to collect PAL or you want to collect North American. I wouldn't really recommend you mix your collection through PAL region and North American region. Most North American stuff is more expensive at this time. It is the main collecting region, but that also might mean that PAL stuff is being sold at a significant discount, and it's obviously also going to be a lot more affordable for you to acquire PAL stuff if you are Italian rather than importing everything for your collection. So decide what you want to do with that and stick to that would be my first recommendation. And then as for consoles, franchises, genres, I said this before, I don't really like to just give heavy recommendation on stuff. If you choose any of the really big consoles, any of the Nintendo ones, PS1, PS2, there's going to be a ton of stuff on those consoles to collect for. If you choose big franchises like Mario, Sonic, Zelda, any of the big Nintendo ones, any of the big PlayStation ones, again, you're going to be in a pretty safe environment. This stuff is going to come at premiums a lot of the time, but if you chase after the more popular, more mainstream stuff, you probably have a better higher chance of it maintaining value or increasing in value into the future. As you learn more about this whole hobby, you'll probably go down different rabbit holes, find some stuff that you really like, go after stuff that resonates with you, that you find interest in, and that you think might be something people care about more in the future, or something that might go up in the future. Hi Greg, I enjoy your channel and have been tuning in a lot to the live weekly auction videos. One question I've had that I'd appreciate your opinion on: are rare consoles worth getting graded? You have a very rare Japanese ANA Nintendo 64 console given on certain flights on ANA Airlines back in 1999. And although N64 consoles in Japan did not really come sealed, it's a very unique prize item and wasn't sold to the public. Thanks for your opinion and keep up the great work. The big issue with these unique consoles is that no one grades them yet. VGA is your only company that's gonna grade consoles in general, and all they grade are either brand new unopened consoles or consoles that are complete with everything but are new unused. So I guess if you had this ANA console in completely unused condition with, like, I don't know what it distributed with, but if you have the distribution stuff with it, the console's unused, it has plastic bags, whatever it is, in that case you could probably get it graded. But as is, if you just have this console, I'm not sure VGA will grade it for you at all. Do I think it's worth getting them graded? Absolutely I do, but I don't know if any company is actually going to touch it at this time. Reach out to VGA with some pictures of it and see what they say would be my recommendation. Next question. I'm pretty sure you answered this somewhere, but I'm really curious about it. If we leave collecting aside, which video game consoles do you enjoy playing for the most, and what do you play nowadays? If we actually just talk about gaming, Tonk, I don't really do a lot of retro gaming outside of like a few game nights here and there every month. I generally play on computer the most these days, and I plug in an Xbox controller for most games that I do play. I was heavily playing Halo Infinite not too long ago, and then I was playing the Dark and Darker demo, if some of you guys checked that out when it was out, and now I am mostly just playing Warzone. I've also been playing a lot of Melee lately. I love playing Melee. I'm a Falco main. I even played it semi-competitively for a bit. Mario Party is also always mixed in. Usually it's Mario Party 1, 2, 3, or Mario Party Superstars. For retro gaming, right now I am actually playing through Dragon Warrior 2 on my phone. So I'm doing a little bit of everything right now, but mostly I do play modern, I do play newer games on Steam. Simos13 here has 4 questions to ask. I give a little and this guy takes a lot. What do you think makes the game valuable? How is Vanquish on PS3 far cheaper than Tales of Xillia 2? They have similar scores and sold about the same, but worth vastly different amounts. Yeah, so when we start talking about stuff like that, Tales of Xillia falls into the Tales of series. It's a game that's part of a major franchise. It is a genre that is RPG, which is already heavily collected. It's part of Bandai Namco, which are companies that are heavily collected. Vanquish itself is published by Sega, I believe, and a game that was a standalone title that, while it did good, Vanquish itself is nothing. Vanquish is a single game in the FPS genre, which FPS is very much not collected or held in high collector regard. So in general, for any standalone random game like that to really gain notoriety in collector circles, it has to be like one of the best games ever released, or there has to be a flood of YouTube videos that like keep it relevant and keep it into people's spheres. I'm sure right now if you ask most collectors what they think about Vanquish, they'll have no idea what you're even talking about. So that's how I kind of consider stuff like that. RPGs in general are always going to be one of the most collected, most sought after, most cherished genres. It's really hard to have like third-person action shooter games ever rival RPGs in general. How much is my collection worth? Easily over 100,000. It's probably over 200,000 as well. After that, it gets murky. So somewhere around $200,000 would be a pretty safe guess. The market has cooled down a lot. Can you see it heating up again? If so, when and what systems to keep an eye on? Yes, I do see it heating up again. I am still buying stuff and accumulating stuff right now whilst prices are low, in hopes that the market does become hot again in the future. And this could be anywhere from 2 to 5 years in the future. You have to understand that there is very likely not going to be a massive economic shift up in the next 6 to 12 months. If anything, we're going to go into a recession and things are going to get even worse before they get better. But since I do not know where the bottom is, and I do not know when the market is going to flip, and since this is what I love doing, I just steadily keep putting money into this hobby, steadily accumulate stuff that I think is being sold at fantastic value right now, and hopefully in the future I will reap some of those rewards. What systems to keep an eye on? All of them. If you want to be super successful in this, you should be buying like NES, Super Nintendo, N64, GameCube, Wii, PS1, PS2, original Xbox 360, PS3. There's value across all of these consoles. It seems like your goal is investment or making money with this hobby, and if that is the case, you should never be limiting yourself to 1 or 2 consoles. Cast as wide of a net as you possibly can. And finally, how often do I lift? About 5 or 6 times a week at an actual gym. Derek P asks, do I plan on doing more collector's diary videos? Looking back to your collection through the years, I found those videos super interesting, especially the stories tied to how you acquired certain games and the prices you paid at the time. Yes, Derek, I really should bring back the collector's diary series. I think it's been over a year since I made one of those now. I think we're at year 2017. I spreadsheet everything I buy and sell, so I have a lot of stories, I have a lot of price references. Yeah, I should bring those back, Derek. I really should. S Block asks, why are most post-2019 buyers trying to short VGA when a 90 is harder to get than any grade WATA or CGC would give? I do think we went through a phase there in the market where WATA was booming and people stopped paying attention to just how hard VGA was. And I think a lot of post-2019 buyers simply didn't understand the VGA scale as it relates to the WATA scale. You see a 90 and you see a 9.8, obviously the 9.8 is higher, right? And if you're paying attention now in 2023, those VGA 90 and above grades are selling fantastic. They're selling very, very well. As good as some of the top WATA and CGC grades, which is what they always should have been doing. So I think there was definitely a lot of lag there with understanding what a VGA grade was compared to a WATA and CGC grade. But the market has definitely corrected itself in the past year on that. What do I think about development systems, games, and prototype collecting? It has never really been something I go after. I know there are very dedicated people out there who buy development stuff, prototype stuff, but it's not something that I personally resonate with. It's not something I really care about. For the most part, the barriers to entry are quite hard as well. You need to know a lot about the stuff. It's really hard to source a lot of stuff, and most stuff you find is going to be pretty damn expensive. So I think it's a really cool niche for people that really care about that stuff, but it's probably not an area of collecting that I'll ever enter into myself. Mitch Marr asks, what's a game that I regret not buying? The one that always stands out to me is a factory sealed copy, I think it was VGA graded even, of Sonic Adventure Limited Edition. Finding it factory sealed is basically as hard as it is to find Sculptor's Cut factory sealed. Not quite that hard, but you get what I mean. And I was the underbidder on eBay. So I did try to buy it. I even pushed it to, I think it was only $600 at the time, but I was also, this is probably 2015 or so I was pretty young. $600 was a lot of money. But I regret not just pushing it as hard as I could have or just spending way too much money on it type of thing. It's the type of game that you never get another chance at. There's obviously games I regret not buying, like Devil's Third when it was $70 or whatever, but you always have another chance to buy this stuff. Even right now, right? You can buy a factory sealed copies of Devil Third for like $400. You can go buy Rule of Rose for like $500 or whatever. But there are those certain items where it's like, man, I didn't buy it right there, and now I never know when I'm gonna buy it. It's like Mario Bros. Factory sealed. It used to be $300, $1,000. You get yourself a beautiful one. Now it's like $10,000 minimum to get a beautiful one. It's the ones like that that hurt the most. I wish I would have bought a Mario Bros. Too. I think Neo Geo AES is a contender for video game long-term investment. Most of its rarest titles are in the hands of collectors for the most part, and the game CIB not even sealed. What are your thoughts on Neo Geo AES? I think Neo Geo is actually poised for long-term decline and long-term people not caring. Neo Geo has always been held in this highest regard, highest private circle of people, and the people who care about Neo Geo really care about Neo Geo. But then what? Who else cares about Neo Geo? The general consumer does not care. The general collector does not care. The games themselves, I don't believe the vast majority of them are tied to any kind of IPs that matter at all. So we're talking about rarity for the sake of rarity. And we've already seen the NES with Stadium Events. Stadium Events has been trumped by more popular stuff. So if we take Neo Geo as an entire category of collecting there, I just don't see why these prices would keep going into the future. I don't see why people would be convinced that they need to spend $10,000, $20,000, $50,000 on these games 10, 20, 30 years from now versus buying Nintendo stuff, Sony stuff, other investable video games. Obviously, I don't have a lot to do with Neo Geo, so I'm coming at this from a perspective of I'm 30 years old. Neo Geo means nothing to me. I'm aware it's expensive. I'm aware that collectors of Neo Geo really care about it, but I just don't see why I would ever care about it, generations younger than me would ever care about it, or why someone new would decide to care about it. So yes, these games are all extremely rare, but I feel like it's going to be hard to continually find buyers for this stuff as time keeps passing. And once some of this stuff inevitably does end up at open auction, we might see massive price corrections versus what everyone is saying is worth $50,000, $10,000, and whatever price. It actually sells at open auction for $4,000 or $10,000 or whatever, right? But take all of that with a grain of salt. I am not a Neo Geo expert by any means, so just my open opinion about the console, about collecting for it. That's what I think about Neo Geo, and it's not a console that I think about very often. Next question. Would I say shorts have been useful to get eyes on the channel? I feel like it should be used more as a vehicle to get a bunch of views and subs, and hopefully convert them into long-form viewers. Yes, that is why I do shorts. I don't do shorts for monetization or anything like that. I do it to get subs, to get views, and just to get my name out there. So shorts videos are fully just about getting exposure. Hopefully some of those people do convert to long form, like you said. What is my favorite grading company and why? Peekapoo, right now, I genuinely don't have a single favorite company where I love everything that they do. I think overall, I like VGA's cases the best, but I cannot justify their price points. I also love the WATA labels. I love the descriptions they have, and I think WATA is the best at identifying variations and labeling them properly on the labels. I still need to see the new WATA case in hand to give a final judgment on that. CGC, I absolutely love the price point that they give. Their cases are crystal clear. As of right now, May 2023 though, I will submit to all three companies for different purposes. I don't think any one company is like miles ahead of the others right now. Would I rather have a WATA 4.0C Plus or a VGA 30? Probably the VGA 30. Like that's pick your poison right there. But I think a VGA 30 might be nicer overall. You barely see either of those two grades, so I really have no idea. Next question here. Why Reddit? Why do you do that to yourself? Whenever I see your name pop up, it's often such a brutal dog pile of people losing their minds on you for liking sealed games. I hope you take some time off after each post. These kind of hysterics are hard to take after a few minutes. So why do I post on Reddit? Genuinely, I think it's good for the overall hobby, for the overall stigma around sealed and graded collecting, to just post about picking up sealed games, graded games, the exact same as anyone else picking up any other game. Because in my head, it genuinely is the exact same. But a lot of people out there treat it like it's this disgusting, different, evil investor hobby. And I think it's important to just show normal, graded, sealed game collecting to people as well. And over time, I genuinely do think it will just become an accepted part of the hobby. It's gonna take time, obviously, but think about Pokemon collecting, right? Everyone grades cards over there. It's basically the norm. Same with comic collecting. Are there people who still don't like it? Of course there are. And there's gonna be people who always hate graded game collecting, but in time, it'll just become a much more accepted, much more widespread thing. Doing small posts on Reddit here and there is just helping us get to that point. In my view, anyway. Bigsy Games! Well-deserved, Greg. The road to 100k subs is on the way. Question, am I playing Tears of the Kingdom? If yes, how does it hold up? I am not playing Tears of the Kingdom right now. I mean, maybe eventually I hope to get to it. Anytime one of these games is like, I know it's going to take me, I don't know, 50 hours to beat Tears. Anytime I'm thinking about that kind of time investment, I get a little bit gun-shy about picking up the game. But I hope to play Tears eventually. I've watched a bunch of content from it already. Obviously, I'm getting TikToks and stuff. It looks incredible. Hopefully, I can play it eventually. Easy Money asks, how much of a hit to the seal grade does a price tag do? You're guessing A++ is out of the question? Not necessarily. You can still A++ with a small price tag. You have an N64 and Game Boy Color game with the original Walmart and Kmart price tag, so those are generally the small ones I'm talking about. You actually think it's kind of cool seeing the original price back in the days, but you're probably going to sell them. I was wondering, what does better for resale value? In general, it is better to remove all stickers. If you remove all stickers, you have a better chance at getting a higher grade. Stickers in general are detracted from your seal grade. If you have a bunch of considerations already, or you're at the line, say, right? It's like, oh man, this could be A+, this could be A++. If you have the sticker, you're probably going to lean towards A+. If you get rid of the sticker, you have a good chance of leaning to the higher side. Stickers basically never help your overall value. If you're going to do the removal, make sure you do it clean, because you can also screw up the removal, which will also hurt the value. Real Meditainment asks, what is your favorite Sega Genesis title? It is Golden Axe, no question. If I wanted to cheat on this question, I would say the Sega 6-pack, which has 6 incredible Sega Genesis games. If you have that game, you have 6 of the best Sega Genesis titles, in my opinion. Super Junk says, congrats, dude. So awesome to see all your hard work paying off. Question, you say, you wake up tomorrow and Pokemon are real. Who's making your team of 6? Oh man, we got Lopunny, we got Gardevoir, we got Vaporeon. Wait, what exactly was the question? What's my favorite console? I would probably have to go with Nintendo 64. It's the first console that we received new for Christmas, year of, I don't know, I think it was 1998 we got it, maybe 99? But N64 was the first, like, my console. We got it brand new. That's always going to be the one that holds the strongest feeling for me. Daniel Nom asks, when will long hair Greg make his return? Hopefully never, Daniel. I cannot believe I had my hair that long. Like, I look back at it and I don't even recognize myself. I never want long hair like that again. Max 2D Gaming, yo, what's up, dude? Have you thought about expanding your channel to include other people who are interested in this as you, a network per se? I have thought about something like that, but you get into the world where then I would lose a certain control of the content. If it was going on to a separate YouTube channel or something, that could work where, you know, we all just upload our content to this YouTube channel and the YouTube channel would have different videos made by different creators. But that also, I don't think that's a good idea. I don't know if that's like a viable idea. So I don't know how I would want to handle an actual network of creators type thing. What was the happiest I've ever been from purchasing a game? Good question, Comac. I think the most feeling or happiness, if you want to call it that, from purchasing something was from buying Cheetah Men 2, which even recently I said I'm going to be selling it from my personal collection, but I think I purchased it 10 years ago. And at the time, I thought it was just impossible to get a game like that. I think it cost me $600 or something. I would have been maybe 18, 19 years old. I was just still learning a lot about these rarest games. VGA was making videos about this. I just never thought I would actually own something as rare as Cheetah Men 2. And that just really resonated with me back then. Obviously now 10 years later, right, everything has changed. The money amounts, the games, the rarities, everything is different. But going back to when I was just really fresh into it and stuff was new, stuff was exciting, Cheetah Men 2 was super exciting. And part of me really misses those days when stuff was still fresh and exciting. It's hard for me to get like really excited about stuff these days. The more you do this, the deeper you get, the more you learn, stuff becomes a lot less exciting, even though stuff also becomes a lot more exciting, if that makes sense. The duality of collecting, if you will. It's kind of interesting. Misanthropic Deuce asks, what is your opinion on collecting PAL stuff? Are you interested in it, or at least PAL exclusive stuff? For the most part, no. I basically have zero interest in collecting PAL stuff. Some of the PAL exclusive stuff is really cool. One item I think I will eventually purchase is the Majora's Mask Adventure set. I believe that's PAL exclusive, but for the most part, no. I have very little interest in collecting PAL stuff. Collecting stuff outside of your main region is very expensive for the most part as well, because you have to import everything, so it makes it even less exciting for me. How excited am I for Gamerstonks? Oh, Timothy, I can hardly contain my excitement for Gamerstonks.com. Compiling auction results across all of the major auction houses into one spot. I cannot wait for this. It is going to help out sealed and graded collectors everywhere, man. Inasuma asks, have I ever considered selling all my games or almost all for any reason? The only time I would ever sell my whole collection or close to my whole collection would be for a major life event or change or something like that. And maybe it could be like buying a house or having a family or moving out of Canada. Maybe I'm gonna move to Europe or something, right? It would have to be some massive major event that takes place that makes me want to sell everything. Otherwise, it will only ever be selling some stuff here, selling some stuff there, curating down the collection, shedding the fat, stuff like that. I obviously think about selling everything, but I don't think I would ever pull the trigger on it unless it was truly a life-changing event. Avery G asks, tell us how much money Heritage gives you, and then Phoenix Resale pops on. Also, WATA, please. So WATA Games pays me nothing. Zero. I have never been paid by WATA to do anything or received any compensation. Very, very, very recently, they helped me out by submitting a Warp Zone order to get the new case, but that is the first time I've received like a handout or any kind of deal for WATA Games. Heritage, how much do they pay me? I don't know if I can can like tell you guys the exact amount. I will say though, between like Patreon, YouTube, eBay affiliate, anything that pays me money from everything I do in this hobby, YouTube channel, all of that stuff, I did make about 25,000 Canadian, 20,000 US, give or take. Heritage definitely does help out those numbers and helps this channel to sustain itself, but it's not like I'm not living a rich life over here, you know what I mean? If I had to sell everything and only keep 3 games, what would I hold on to? Probably just Zelda Collector's Edition Factory Sealed, Majora's Mask Factory Sealed, and the Majora's Mask demo cartridge. In total, it's like $10,000 worth of stuff, so not insane. I do love the stuff, and if for whatever reason I had to sell it all, I wouldn't just want to hold on to the most expensive things. I'd want to hold on to stuff that means a lot to me, and those are pretty good for meaning a lot. If I had $5,000 to invest in video games right now, what would you buy? Graded, raw, many, few, for potential gain in 2 years? Yeah, like these are the ones where I just aren't interested in giving opinions like this. If someone wanted to sit down with me and go through like a potential portfolio plan, that is something different where we could talk, but again, it's just going to be a more general answer of buy the biggest franchises in the nicest grades you can possibly get and sit on them for multiple years. But the way that I participate in this market isn't so much of pinpointing certain games that I want to buy at certain times. It's like I said, casting an insanely wide net on everything and looking for value as it comes to me. I will gladly buy a less popular title if the value I can get it for is insane. You've tried looking this up but have been struggling a bit. Would you try to remove the sticker residue from a cardboard game with no seal? It's a PC game with a big sticker on it. If not, would you trust VGA to remove? I'm not sure if VGA would do a removal on cardboard with no cellophane DK, but if you are going to try and remove it yourself, I would recommend lighter fluid or Bestine. Be careful with applying it. Usually you just want to dab it on top of the sticker and then try to peel it as you go. But those two products are a lot lighter on your box than something like Goo Gone or Goof Off. Removing stickers directly from cardboard though is a lot more nuanced than it is doing it from cellophane, so you'll have to be very careful no matter what. Youngster Ryan says, Greg, congrats on 25,000. It's awesome to see video game collecting becoming more mainstream. Who are the 4 video game icons characters that would be on your Mount Rushmore? Wow. It's got to be Mario, obviously. Next would probably be Pikachu. I think that counts as a video game character icon, right? Or are we going to say that's a trading card icon? I'm putting Pikachu on the Mount Rushmore. Then I think we would have to have Link. Zelda still being like the biggest franchise outside of Mario for Nintendo. And I'm trying to think of one outside of the Nintendo world. Like Sonic could be up there. Samus is having a bit of resurgence, but has also been dead for so long. It turns out this is a Nintendo Mount Rushmore, so I'm giving the number 4 slot to Donkey Kong, but I'm definitely curious to hear your guys' answers as well. Like if we were to go into the Sony route, do we put like Kratos on there from God of War? There's so many different ways you can go with this question. Tim Harlan asks, what do I think is the rarest Game Boy Dragon Ball game to find sealed? You think it's Dragon Ball Z Boo's Fury Dragon Ball GT Transformation? I think that is the number 2 game for me, Tim. Boo's Fury GT Transformation, the double pack game, very hard to find factory sealed, no doubt, but I think it is harder to get your hands on a Dragon Ball Advance. Dragon Ball Advance is just always eluded me for whatever reason. I mean, I guess Dragon Ball Advance and Boo's Fury GT could be like your 1A and 1B. I could see people arguing either way for them, but those are definitely the 2 in my opinion. Reed Armor says, you're wondering what would be the video game equivalent of a PSA 9 Pokemon card. What grade would be a good grade or grade range to collect where I could expect to pay a price that isn't necessarily a huge premium, but would still look nice and potentially hold value, be desirable long term. Mostly interested in WATA and also looking at CGC if that matters. Thanks. If we're talking about hard case, more modern stuff, it's going to be like a 9.6 A+. If we're talking about vintage cardboard type stuff, you're going to be more of a 9.2 A+. It does depend on the era you're collecting because it's going to be far more likely to find mint condition stuff on newer gen stuff than it is on old stuff that's 20, 30 years old. In general, I'd say 9.6 A+ for newer stuff, 9.2, 9.4 A+ for older stuff. Some of that is still going to cost you an insane premium, so it also does just depend how expensive the game is in general. And finally, who would win in a fight, me or Carl Jobst? Fantastic question, Rick. So here's some words from Carl Jobst himself. I think Greg is bigger. Greg looks like a tank though. Just fully ignore that part in the middle there. But by Carl's own admission, this guy is a frickin' tank. Carl has weak little speedrunner wrists that are gonna give out in a boxing fight, but Carl is no slouch. The guy does work out, but I'm gonna be honest with you. He's getting close to 40 years old. He probably doesn't have the juice left to take on on someone like Greg. Carl is formidable, no doubt about it. Don't let me take anything away from him, but give it to Greg in 7 rounds. And that does it for 25,000 subscribers. I have been recording for almost 2 hours at this point. By the time you guys watch it, it's probably going to be like a 45-minute video, but hey, hopefully this was enjoyable. Hit the like button, and I will see you guys in the next video. I will see you guys at 50,000 subs. Goodbye.